Hey, my name is Thomas, long time no see, but look what I've brought to show to you. This is the Tamron 180 macro lens mounted with an adapter on the Sony a6700. And I want to show to you what this lens can do that most modern lenses can't do. So let's have a go. What's the special thing about this lens? It's first a 180mm lens. That means it's kind of a telephoto lens. But it's also a macro lens. It goes to 1:1 full-size magnification like a true macro lens. And third, it's got autofocus throughout the whole focusing range. And back in the day, this is a 2003 release. Back in the day, there were lenses like this from Canon, from Nikon, from Sony or Minolta back in the day, from Tamron, from Sigma. It was really a pretty common thing, and then they'd all just stopped making them. So there is no current real match for this lens. The closest is maybe the Laowa 180mm lens, which is a macro lens, but it doesn't autofocus in macro conditions, so it's basically a manual macro lens, not autofocus. So this lens still has a strong point going for it, and I'm going to show you why this is so important. So the cool thing about the telephoto macro lenses is they are telephoto lenses. That means they put a lot of distance between you and your subject, but also macro lenses means you can go as close to your subject and zoom in as much as you want, whereas any normal telephoto lens will stop at a distance of maybe a meter or 1.5 meters. With this one you can go much closer. In this case I found these nice fungi on the tree. They are maybe 2 or 3 meters away, but I don't have to walk through nature to get there. I can take it from here. And I'm going to show you that it's quite a nice shot. So we are here in a nice nature park in the very, very south of the Netherlands. It's called Regte Heide, yeah, and it gives a lot of beautiful, stunning views, beautiful nature, but also a lot of detail. Currently it's March, it's a bit early in the season, but if you would come here in May or in June or something, this will be full with flowers, with little animals and insects and birds and whatnot else. So beautiful, really. So in your hand, this is a classic Tamron lens from about 23 years ago. And this one is a Minolta or Sony A mount. They also made them for Nikon, for Canon and for Pentax. And then I use the LA EA5 adapter to mount it on my a6700. This is the most modern autofocus adapter that connects Sony cameras to these old Sony or Minolta lenses. The lens itself, it's got a push-pull focusing ring. Like this, it's autofocus, and when you focus, this won't turn. If you go back, but you also have to set the camera to manual focus, then you can manually focus. Doesn't feel so good because now you're also moving all the little cogwheels in the autofocus mechanism, but you can manual focus, and sometimes very important if you're want to shoot a faraway subject and before that you shot really close subject, sometimes it won't even see the subject and then you can help it like this. And now we are back in autofocus. Actually, if you're shooting the Canon or the Nikon version, This is all you need to go from autofocus to manual focus. If you're shooting a Sony or a Pentax, you also need to set the camera, I put it on this button, to manual focus. Now it's manual focus, and now autofocus. Focus is down to 1:1, which is nice. Got a 72mm filter thread, and what's super cool is it's got this ring, and the ring will actually turn the threads. So in case you use a polarizer on this lens, you can turn it with this ring. That's very helpful if you put on the original sunshade. I will show you the sunshade. It's like this long. I usually don't bother to take it with me. The lens also comes with a tripod collar. Again, this is not mounted currently because I'm shooting it handheld, but all this stuff is included and it's of a very high quality. So overall, there's a lot to like in this lens, even though it feels a little bit clunky in modern terms regarding autofocus performance. So one thing about this lens that I like a lot, these telephoto lenses allow you to take nice views of very far away subjects. In this case, this little tree doesn't seem to be so special, but once you see the zoomed in shot and the backdrop, all these other, trees in the background and stuff, yeah, it looks kind of really nice. So I love how a telephoto lens like this already compresses the perspective a lot. So I found this beautiful old bench, and it's covered in lichen, and it gives nice macro detail shots. So I could zoom in a little bit more, and it turned out this lens has a distance scale, which is super helpful. So I know I shot at around 1/3 of a magnification, and that's a very useful information. You know how large is the stuff that you took a picture of, and you can later calculate even if you want to. These scales are also missing on all the modern macro lenses, and I find it a real pity. So you just saw me taking the pictures of this little spider, and actually I went to about 1 to 1.7 magnification. So now I can calculate how large the spider was in my picture, because I know the sensor size of this camera is 16 by 24 millimeters times 1.75. That's the size of the frame that you're shooting, and then I can calculate that the spider was maybe about 1 centimeter or so. I will put the exact dimension of the spider in the video. So in Regte Heide, you don't only have beautiful landscapes and nature, but you also got these interesting monuments, old graves from ancient times. You've got several of them, actually. I'm standing between 2 of them, and there are several more in this vicinity. Yeah, super interesting stuff. Autofocus performance, that's a little bit the elephant in the room. This lens wasn't praised for fast autofocus back in the day already. But on the other hand, with these modern cameras, you've got animal detection, eye detection, face detection, all the modern stuff that they didn't have back then. And also today it works much more precisely than it did back then. Still, it's a slow lens and it's a macro lens. That means if you're focused in very closely and then want to change to far away subject, there's just blur in the viewfinder and the camera doesn't recognize anything, and then you have to help it with manual focus. So best practice in nature photography is always to take a lot of shots, put the camera on high-speed mode, take a lot of frames, throw away all the bad ones. There will be always slight variations in continuous focusing. It doesn't only happen with this old lens, can also happen with modern lenses. So a lot of shots, throw away all the bad ones is best practice, and it always helps. And having said all this, even this slow autofocus, even in macro close focus range, is still much faster than manual focus in a lot of situations. So I still think autofocus is very helpful, even though it's not the best one. Image quality. This lens is very, very good. Even on modern sensors, I find that sharpness is really, really good and contrast as well. However, if you're shooting super far away subjects, it pays out to stop down a little bit if you want to have sharpness up into the four corners of your frame. This is a macro lens. It's not optimized for the best performance far away, but it's more optimized for close-up shots. But in general, I don't find any issues with image quality, not on the A6700, which has a really, really high pixel density. Also on full frame, it performs pretty well. And yeah, usually in macro range, you will stop down anyway for depth of field. That's not the lens's fault. You have to stop down, otherwise you have a really tiny part of your image that's in focus and everything is already blurry. But again, the lens performs super well. So I'm going to show you the working distance, what I mean, why a long focal length is helpful. I'm shooting this little detail there, and I can shoot it from here. And now I was at 1:5 magnification, but I was like over a meter away from the subject. So if this would be a dragonfly, a damselfly, or maybe even a hornet or something, you can't approach it even more, or you don't want to approach it in case it's a hornet. These long focal lengths really helps you to get your shot. And also you got this smooth background blur despite having enough depth of field. That's where a 180 macro lens is just better than a 100mm macro lens in these circumstances. Time for the verdict. Yeah, as you can tell, I really like this lens, even though it's old and it has a few issues with like autofocus speed and stuff like that. But I like it because it does one thing very well. It takes close-up shots, macro shots at quite a far distance from your subject. That's often very helpful. It has very, very good optics, super sharp and contrasty, nothing to complain about. You can shoot this on modern cameras. There are adapters like this adapter for Sony. Also, I think Nikon and Canon make similar adapters, so you could get this for a Canon mount on a Canon camera, you could get it for Nikon mount on a Nikon camera with an adapter, and then you will have a better autofocus performance, at least as this lens had brand new on old cameras back then. And having said that, it's a good macro lens. It's also a good lens for faraway shots. You would maybe get a modern 70-200 to do that. Then you're more flexible. You can zoom a bit and stuff like that. But this one also gives beautiful landscape and nature shots. And again, in macro terms, it can do stuff that the modern 70-200s cannot. So if you're into that sort of subjects, if you want to shoot maybe butterflies or dragonflies or, small animals, but with some working distance between you and the front of the lens, then this might be for you. There are other lenses, like if you're a Canon shooter, check out the Canon 180 macro from the same time. But apart from that, this Tamron lens is really good and highly recommended. That's it for today. I hope you found this interesting, maybe even useful. If you did so, then please leave a like and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. If you've got any questions or comments, write something in the comment section below. You know I love to read all your comments and I will happily answer every single one of them. So live long and prosper, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.